Okay, today I'm working in a 1930s house, give or take. The rendering on this wall is completely blown. Why it is also as thin as it is, I'm not quite sure. That looks quite fat there, but it's just where it's come away from the brickwork. But it's no more half an inch at best, pushing an inch, I suppose, very tops. As ever, the first best thing to do is get that floor protection down. I've said before on a lot of my videos, when you're doing any plastering job, you really need to do a good job of protecting the client's home, their carpet, their furniture. That's just a bit of roll and stroll. I mean, that particular bit is for hard floor, but it's just the base underneath where the rubble will be dropping down. Then on top of that, we are putting a lovely ground sheet. And that'll take any kind of impacts and help control a lot of the mess. And the pièce de résistance is my plastic that I normally use on the floor, propped up to the ceiling with a couple of plasterboard props, and then taped to the floor, basically to give me enough work area inside there to do what needs to be done without a majority of the dust floating across into the rest of the room and putting that fine film and everything. And tape the dust sheet down. It's nice and easy to sweep off as well once you've got that rubble off. That's what we like, a bit of paper that comes off nice and easy. And then basically this wall was so blown I could pull the whole lot off by hand. Again, once done here, it's my trademark one good really neat coat of PVA on that brickwork, not bad brickwork as it goes, and allow that to dry. This is the following day here. I've obviously tidied up all my mess the night before, and I'm starting the float. The reason for this video is a lot of guys just go, okay, dot and dab. And in this particular case, dot and dabbing would be a little bit awkward unless you're going to start removing the skirting because of the lack of thickness on the actual wall. Now here I'm putting on what's known as a screed. It's to give you a level to work to. These can be put on through the centre, around the edge in a box, across the top and the bottom, and then the middle filled in. Different plasterers use different techniques. This also would normally be applied if you're a right-handed plasterer from the right-hand side working towards the left, because the plaster just locks on to the following sweep when you're moving towards the left, and your arm as a right-handed plasterer is curving to the right. This is because of the thinness of the gear that's going on. I'm applying this in the same way that I would apply finish to a wall, from left to right as opposed to the other way around. Some guys, when they're floating, will, I mean generally if they've got a labourer, coat the whole wall in one hit and then just be rolling it across from one end to the other, from the top to the bottom. Obviously when you're working on your own, you can only mix and get so much gear up at a time, and mix so much up in a bucket when you're working from a bucket as opposed to off a spot board. Again, a lot of guys now seem to dot and dab everything when it's possible as opposed to doing a float. A lot of guys can skim but can't actually float, which is great until you get a half decent job that comes up that needs some floating, and you either take it on not knowing what you're doing, or you do take it or you lose the job, basically, because you're not confident in doing it, depending obviously how long you've been a spread and what your experiences of floating and setting. You would or could normally also do a devil float over the top of this, which basically is going over the whole thing with a plastic float with a couple of screws or nails in, just to give you a bit more key and flatten out. But the key isn't really essential because the chemical bond between the finish and the bonding is superb. You'd never get them apart. Here I'm laying on my my first coat. As a lot of you guys already know, I do a fairly big mix and I water down my my first mix to use for my second flattening coat, which is what I'll be getting around to right now. Here we go. Yeah, the whole purpose of a second coat is to flatten the original first coat, which you can see is what I'm doing here. If you do your coat, you let your first coat more or less, in my opinion, dry before you then mix up a fresh second coat, apart from the extra time it's going to take. You're not really flattening out the first coat with the second coat, then you're just putting another coat on top of your already nearly drying out first coat, which I doubt very much that it would, but it could delaminate one from another in that respect. I'm not saying that it does, but yeah, this is the traditional way that I was taught to lay on a second coat. It more or less goes on top of the first one while the first one is still wet, and because I'm using the same mix just watered down, using less gear, and the whole set is going off in one hit. Now here I'm wetting the wall down. This is obviously when it's picked up a little bit, because I'm using the plastic bladed speed skim to roll over to the left, right, up, down. If that wall isn't wet enough and you use a plastic blade on it at this stage, it will drag. If you use a metal blade on it too soon, it will blister. It basically helps you just get that lovely flatness that you can get with a speed skim. This is my 22 mil, 22 mil, my 1200. So I'm mixing my plastering tools up with my plumbing. And then I'm just finishing off with my Ox Ultraflex. Again, just going over, sorting out the edges, and then as usual just finish up with a wet cross trowel. And you can also obviously do a dry cross trowel afterwards if that's what you like doing. There you go guys, floating and setting. Again, leave house nice and tidy, customers 100% happy, you get 100% paid, and yeah, you didn't have to wonder about how you were going to dot and dab it when it would have been too thick. Cheers guys for watching the video and for subscribing and liking, and I will see you at Ask the Plasterer every other Monday, or I will see you soon in the next video.